Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you're joining us from today. Welcome to the Blind Culture webinar for IrisVision. So my name is Myrna. I'm one of the coaches at IrisVision. I've been with the company for quite some time now, about 3 years, going on 3 years here this year. I'm also a user of the device, as you can see. I have Stargardt's disease. I was diagnosed at the age of 12. And fast forward to today, I'm really excited to be here with you guys and to be part of an awesome team with IrisVision. Coming up in June, it'll be 3 years that I'm actually a user of the device as well. So we also have Coach Maico on with us. Sorry, Maico. Maico is a veteran of the United States Navy, so thank you so much for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. Maico is also a user of the device, as you guys can see. Maico, why don't you tell us a little bit about your eye condition?
So my eye condition is unique in the sense that it's not like a hereditary or anything like that. It was due to I will say a health condition that I had. I had a massive brain tumor that they found back in 2019. Leading up to the discovery, I started losing my vision, amongst other things. That it was sitting in my left frontal lobe area, and also kind of going into the midbrain. So it was pushing down on my optic nerve, and it was causing my vision to kind of go out. And it was, it was a pretty scary thing. It was a very scary thing. It was about the size of a baseball, the tumor was. Oh, wow. And you couple that with the actual procedure of the removal. And when I woke up after the procedure, I was almost totally blind in my left eye and just could see almost, I would describe it as, if you grew up around swimming pools and whatnot, a day full of swimming in a pool with chlorine in it. Like I had a very hazy view of the world. Center vision was pretty much shot. I still had decent peripheral though. I was able to see a peripheral, but if I covered my right eye, I was almost completely blind on my left eye with only a little bit of light coming through. My right eye is for the most part carrying the load. So I used to wear an eye patch over my left eye, but I since kind of switched to the IrisVision instead of the eye patch. Nice. And so my condition is more on the optic nerve side, right? My eyes for the most part are healthy, but the signal isn't getting back to my brain. There's a bit of optic nerve damage. And yeah, so it's almost since having this condition, this is only since 2019 that I've experienced the real, like the full death of the low vision. And after, learning about all the different conditions, my vision is very similar to Stargardt's actually. That's how I would best describe it. If I could, simplify that long explanation, I would just tell people, yeah, I have a form of Stargardt's.
Okay.
Because it's very similar to how you explain it.
So you mentioned that you were an eye patch for a while, but then you switched over to IrisVision. Can you tell us how IrisVision has made an impact in your life?
Oh, it's made a huge impact. So it's interesting because I came into the low vision game, very late. It's only been a couple years. It's only been since 2019. I was 39, right? So for 39 years, I was driving, working, living, living a normally, a sighted life. And then all of a sudden, I have this procedure and this condition and all these things happen, and I'm coming home and I have to relearn a lot of things, right? I have to, air quotes, learn to walk again. So I adjusted and, I try to keep a good attitude about things. And, for example, I would, I caught myself listening to a lot of my media, right? I wasn't watching television shows. I was listening to television shows. I was doing a lot of audiobooks. I was just sort of adjusting. And we saw the video for the IrisVision on the website, like many of you, viewers or listeners probably have done. And I couldn't believe it. It seemed like it was too good to be true, right? So how quickly I came out of the hospital, and having lost my vision within a few months, I'm already finding something that I thought maybe potentially help me. And I did the demo. I did my coaching sessions with Chelsea, our other coach, and holy cow, wouldn't you know it? Within a few months being out of the hospital, I was watching television again. I was able to read. I was able to look out of my backyard and see the canyon in my backyard and see my kids' faces. So it had a huge impact on allowing me to feel, I hate to say the word normal, but to feel like
that makes
have
sense,
purpose, to be functional,
right?
Yeah, it's a very scary thing. There's no one sense is better than the other, but sight is a very important sense. And then to have it just taken away from you it's a scary situation. And IrisVision has given me back the ability to do a lot of things that I thought for a short period of time I thought I was just not going to be able to do anymore. So I'm very thankful for the technology and the company. And now I'm a coach.
Awesome. And we're so glad that you're part of our team for sure.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for joining me today with this series, because this is going to be a series that IrisVision is putting on in regard to blind culture. So, talking about your experience, all of a sudden waking up and like not being able to see, you kind of got thrown into this world, right, of being partially sighted. So I know that culture can mean lots of different things. What does culture mean to you?
So that's a good question. So there are a few different ways to look at culture, right? You have culture on, like, let's say a national level or religious, something that you're born into, right? And that's something maybe you don't necessarily have a choice. Like if you come from a specific country, you celebrate the traditions and the things about that country that make it unique, or your religion, or for whatever it is, a region. And then you have subcultures, right? You can like different music. You can be a part of there's like nerd culture, there's foodie culture, there's all these other different cultures. And one of the things that I've sort of started looking into is there a blind culture, right? There's definitely deaf culture. Right. There's a disabled culture. But when you think of cultures, you think of the people, the arts, the traditions.
Right. You mentioned food media. Culture. There's a food culture?
There is a food culture. And as a matter of fact, we just did a coach's corner, I believe it was last week, and it was me, myself, and my fellow coach, our fellow coach, James Pacheco, coach and pit James. Yeah, so you want to talk about foodie culture? This guy did competitive barbecuing and was a judge in a very big part of the food culture, and that's like the competitive barbecuing circuit, competitive grilling. In the South and the Midwest, it's huge. It's huge, and he's really, really steeped into that culture, man. And I'm myself. I am very carnivorous, and when he talks, I listen. I'm definitely a part of that culture. Yes.
Nice. Yeah. So for those of you out there who don't know what the Coach's Corner is, it's another mini series that we do every other Friday. And you could find our episodes on our social media, whether it's on Facebook or even on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing some of those different topics that we have covered, please feel free to navigate to YouTube or Facebook and check out those videos, particularly the one that Maico was mentioning about the grilling, because Memorial Day is this weekend.
Right around the corner. Yeah.
This weekend.
And while we're on the shameless plug, give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and say hi.
Right.
Facebook,
do all
YouTube,
that cool social media
all
stuff.
That stuff.
All of it. Yes. So moving on here with the culture. As you mentioned, there are different types of cultures, and there are disability cultures, And absolutely, we're really familiar with deaf culture, right? We know that's out there. So
Mhm.
would you say that there's such thing as like a blind culture?
So that is an excellent question, and that was the question that me and my partner, my girlfriend, she was a first responder, and she's in nursing school. We sort of set out to find if that even existed, and this was all based on a project that she was doing for nursing school. And if you were to go online, which we did, and search blind culture, does it exist? What is blind culture? There is a consensus out there that that it's not a thing, believe it or not, that there is no
That
blind
it's
culture.
not a thing.
That is not a thing. While deaf culture is definitely widely recognized, and disability culture in general is widely recognized, that the blind don't there's no blind culture. So that actually kind of blew me away a little bit, because it seems like that just seems so wrong, and I don't think that's I think that's wrong.
Right. No, that definitely, because absolutely, I would most definitely say there's some form of blind culture out there. And blind is such a vague thing. Blindness awareness is something that is just now, I think, coming into society a little bit more because of the advancements in technology and in research and medicine. All these things are starting to kind of bring blindness awareness more to the forefront of people's minds. I think you mentioned something once about the baseball players or something, right? Having
So the MLB, I believe it was during spring training, they did the Braille on the uniforms, the Braille names on the backs of the uniforms, and I believe a few football clubs in football, soccer football, having done so as well. So there is a movement for raising awareness for the blind.
right, and blind can mean, as I mentioned, so many different things. There's like
Mhm.
totally blind, there's partially sighted, there's mostly sighted, there's almost blind. Shout out to
Mhm.
Ben Fox, almost blind. Lots of different categories in regard to sight loss. So,
Yeah.
for example, like for me, if I go out to like a restaurant or grocery store, I recently was traveling, so going through the airport, people don't always know how to react to someone like me because outwardly I don't look like I'm unable to see.
Mhm.
Um, but the reality is, I have no central sight. I have no
Mhm.
sight for that detail that I need to be able to see, to be able to read a menu, to read a price tag, to, just look at different things. So, it's difficult, I think, sometimes for people to understand that. What is
Yeah,
your
and
experience
it's
been?
not, it's a strange I wouldn't say it's a strange, but it's a unique disability in that unless you have like a seeing eye dog or a cane or something, you can't really tell, right? Because well, this kind of backtracking a little bit. I think that people are definitely aware that the blind are out there, that we exist.
Right.
And it's a kind of a weird thing to be like, well, who hasn't, who doesn't know about blind people, right? But I think what the important thing to mention is that, what you had said earlier, that blind is sort of an umbrella statement for, people with visual disabilities, with vision, disabilities, which can be low vision, partially sighted. There's a lot of different things that fall under this umbrella, right? And we don't all, just because we're all have vision issues, doesn't mean we all use canes, that we all have a seeing eye dog, that we all know how to read Braille. You know what I mean? It's more than that, you know. And it's not something that, like, you and we don't necessarily wear it on our sleeves. We don't walk around with a cane. I do have a cane.
Right.
I used to wear my eye patch. I sometimes will still wear it. But you may not know that the person, at your local grocery store, at, the local mall or whatever, has low vision, that they're not able to see you coming. You might be riding your bike on the sidewalk, and the person in front of you, you think is being rude because they're not scooting over for you, but they may not see you coming. That is from my own personal experience.
Right.
I
Tell,
did
tell us about that a little bit. Tell us
walk
about it.
into I was just walking on a sidewalk, and a biker was in the shade of a tree, and I just didn't see them. It was probably difficult enough to see him, if I had my sight. But on top of that, I didn't notice he was there until I had his handlebars in my hands and his front wheel between my legs. And he kind of just gave me a, like, hey, get out of the way. I'm like, sorry, man, I didn't see you. Like, I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you, but I have a disability. I just kind of walked away from it. But yeah, so there's a lot of different things that encompass having, low vision or being partially sighted or being blind, for, I think, the sake of, the conversation. Sure, we'll call it blind, and that's just to sort of simplify things. But you definitely get into, like, different subcategories of vision impairments.
Right, absolutely. And it is tough because, I mean, there are the ADA laws out there that kind of help make things a little bit easier for us in our lives as we're navigating through the world with certain tactile differences in sidewalks as we're approaching, like, the light, the different sounds that lights make when we're crossing the street, things like that, right? But as you mentioned, it's coming along, but I think we still have a ways to go, and especially for those of us who are partially sighted, who are users of this type of low vision technology, like with magnifiers or IrisVision or any other kind of device. When people see me with my IrisVision, for example, they're asking what kind of game I'm playing. And I'm like, the game of sight.
Yes.
I don't know. But it makes sense because people don't understand, and it's I think it's important to get the word out there. And and there is, like, a little bit of a debate, I think, out there amongst our community in regard to, you should always use a white cane if you can't really see. But then there's others who are like, well, I don't necessarily need a white cane, so why should I use it? And so how do you feel about that debate?
I'm okay with it. I use the yellow cane because I'm not blind. I think the white and the red are for the, completely blind. I'm not too familiar with that, but I was given a yellow cane. I'm okay with that. I am totally okay with, because that's a part of our culture, right?
Sure.
Is what we use, what these things mean, right? If you have, for example, if you have a business and you have your client base, you need to know these things about your clients, right? If you need to know if they have any sort of food restrictions because of their religion, or any sort of preferences, due to nationality, like these things that you have to be aware of, right? If someone walks in with a yellow cane, perhaps it'd behoove you to know that this person can see. They can find their way to where they need to go, possibly, quite possibly, but they may need someone to help them with their menu, for example. If someone comes in with a red or white cane, this person is, possibly completely blind, and they may need further assistance. So little things like that, I do totally agree with. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So one of my clients was telling me that as she was traveling not too long ago, she also has Stargardt's, but she doesn't always use the cane as same as me. I don't always use it, and she felt so terrible because people were actually making comments to her saying, "How dare you? I can't stand people like you who fake not being able to see," and stuff like that. And it's so intense to experience stuff like that. I know that some of our viewers out there may have experienced a similar thing, and it's just because we don't outwardly look like we can't see.
Yeah, and I can only speak for myself, but I do feel that stigma of, like, you almost feel like and I don't want, maybe fraud is a harsh word, but it's, well, people ask, right? Well, can you see or can't you see? Right? Like, yes and no, right? Like your shirt from, Sam the Vine Life, I can see, but I can't see.
Right, Sam.
But it's very strange for anybody to actually call somebody out on that. If they're seriously calling people out on it, that's just messed up.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because it is a joke within my friends and family, because sometimes I am able to do things, especially in an environment that I'm comfortable with, right? When you have vision issues, you tend to cope by like organizing yourself in a way that you know where things are and making mental notes of like, okay, this is there, that's there, especially in your own environment. So
Right.
when someone watches you, and maybe it's not someone that is, with you on a daily basis, they look at you and they say, well, are you blind or are you not blind? Well, it's like,
Right.
well, yeah, but I'm still a functioning person that can learn and adapt. Like just because I use a cane sometimes, I don't use a cane sometimes. I still need it. It's still useful. Like I still,
Yeah.
especially in a strange environment. If I'm in a strange environment, sometimes that cane is as much to let other people know, like, hey, give me a little bit of room here because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. I might not see that step. I might not see
Right.
that pillar. I might just, hit my knee on that trailer hitch. You know what I mean? So just give me a little bit of room, please.
Right. Right. Exactly. So with this particular series of the
Hmm.
blind culture, I know that we're going to cover a lot of different areas, right?
Yes.
And I'm excited to have Brittany join us next time.
Hmm.
Brittany is your girlfriend, right? She's the one
Yes. Hmm.
who kind of brought this awareness. So it's going to be really cool to hear her perspective, especially as your partner, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you becoming partially sighted, and now not only are you in this whole new world of
Hmm.
sight loss, she's kind of been thrust into it as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting because she's a first responder. She's an EMT, and she's currently in a nursing school. So she's studying to be a nurse. So she's very well versed in being able to accommodate different cultures. So she is actually an excellent person to have at my side as I go through this journey, because she is very patient with me, and she will do the legwork of like helping me find different communities and stuff. And I think, kind of circling back to the previous conversation about whether there is a culture or not, I think what we found is there is a patchwork of different communities out there, right?
mhm,
And because for the most part, people know that the blind exist. We're out there.
sure,
But
yeah,
what they don't know is that there are these groups of people, these communities of people out there that are helping each other out and that are interacting, right? And that's one thing that Brittany and I found, were that there are groups out there of people that, for example, um, will lead a walk or a hike or a jog, right? And they'll be sort of they'll take point, and they'll take a group of partially sighted people or blind people, right? There are people that will there are like centers for the blind in those type of places, and they'll give you the training. They'll show you how to use all these different tools, and also support groups as well, right? There's
mhm,
definitely a ton of support groups out there, online and in-person type groups. And
oh,
I,
yeah,
I think, and I would like to ask you now, right? Because now I've told you sort of my recent experience with with my condition. Um, it's very new to me. I'm now 41. I've only not had sight for a couple of years, but you have actually been without your sight for quite some time.
right. Oh yeah, yep. Since the age of 12, I'm 39 now, so about 27 years. So it's been quite a journey for me, for sure. Um, it was tough, going to school and being around all these people who can see and who knew me as someone who could see, now to being someone who couldn't see as well.
Hmm. Right.
So, you know, my textbooks were larger.
Hmm.
Rather than having recess, I was having my Braille classes while everyone was out on the playground, playing.
Hmm.
So it was definitely a different world that I was put into at that point. Um, then moving forward, going into high school, I actually attended the School for the Deaf and Blind in Tucson. And that was really cool for me, on one hand, because I was surrounded by others who also had sight loss, whether it was partial or complete. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I was around people who can relate to me and who I can relate to. So that was really cool. So that's why, this whole culture subject is so important because, had I not been around others who were, who had sight loss, it might have been a little more difficult to go through life, especially at that time. Because again, technology, of course, was advancing, but it wasn't quite to where it is now.
Mhm.
And, just going through school and wanting to play sports and things like that, there's sports that are specific for people who are blind or partially sighted. There's goalball, there's baseball, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And I didn't know that. Of course, I'm the type of person who always wants to go above and beyond.
Mhm.
I did play basketball, and I was immersed in the deaf culture at that point because I was the only partially sighted person on the basketball team. So I learned sign language, and I was quite fluent in it. And it was cool. It was cool to see how that culture worked as well. Then fast forward to graduation from high school and moving into adulthood and life, going to um, massage school. That was interesting because then once again I'm put into an environment where people aren't used to seeing someone who has sight loss. All of a sudden they're looking at me, not in a weird way, but just curious, like wondering, because I have the tools that I need to magnify my textbooks or my reading material. Um, I had to have someone read me my exams, and it's just a
Mhm.
different experience. So like throughout life, and then fast forward to becoming a mother. It was very interesting becoming a mom, and having to use the sight I have left to take care of my baby, and depend on
Mhm.
others to help me do that. But I trained her well. I taught her how to read. So at a very young age, there's actually a YouTube video out there of her reading at the age of like 18 months. Because I felt like I needed her little eyes to help me see as we navigate the world, because
Mhm.
I wanted to take her to story time at the library. I wanted to take her to the playgrounds for play dates and things like that. So
Right.
we had to adapt, we had to adjust. And then now that my kids are older, they know mommy can't see, so mommy sometimes will need help, but they also know that mommy is very independent at the same time. And when IrisVision came into my life, it just opened up like literally a whole nother world of independence and confidence. And honestly, I'm not saying that because, I'm a coach for IrisVision or anything. It really, really did have such a profound impact in my life. And
Mhm.
now, being part of the IrisVision team, and like just having the opportunity to now build this career with IrisVision is just a whole nother journey. And being able to do things like this, like these webinars and the coaches corners, just to kind
Mhm.
of help bring that blindness awareness out there, just to kind of educate people. And for those of you out there watching who maybe have just recently lost your sight, or have lost your sight a while ago, or maybe were born partially sighted, there's so much opportunity out there for us, and there's so much that we could take advantage of, and it's just exciting to be able to share the message with literally the world through this platform. So I kind of rambled there, Michael, but that's my story, kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, and that kind of goes paired with what I was mentioning earlier about the different communities. You introduced me to a lot of different concepts, which I've looked into since, right? Like the beat baseball, and I mean, it just in kind of pulling thread on that. Like there are leagues do exist out there. There are communities of people that hold events, that do these things. So these maybe, sure, okay, we don't have a defined culture, but I think it's something that's just waiting to happen. One of the biggest takeaways that I've had as a coach is being able to share experiences and listen to the experiences of my clients and say, you know, even if it's like, dude, me too, I do that thing, or that thing happened to me.
Right.
And, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, someone that is partially sighted or blind may struggle with is finding those communities. And a part of that struggle is because, you know, this whole like the culture doesn't exist thing, right? Because there are people that are having these experiences that go through the same struggles, that, you know, are trying to achieve the same goals that you're trying to achieve and that have.
Right.
And that maybe, you know, we need to kind of bring this patchwork of communities maybe together and just sort of share our experiences and say, you know, maybe just a big global support group of like, yeah, we do have our traditions, we do have our, you know, our people, right? There are many artists that are visually impaired out there. There are
Mhm.
many leaders that are visually impaired, and we do have, you know, our representation. Like it does exist, and sometimes, you know, you can get down on yourself, especially if you have, you know, a disability. Is, you know, as serious as not having your, you know, vision. But it's important to let other people know, right, that, hey, that we're out there, and we're all trying to help each other out.
Absolutely.
And some of us are farther down the line in experience and farther down the line in just years of you know, like the different technologies, and we all come from different backgrounds. So like, let's all come together and 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 talk about it and share our experiences, and just, you know, like I said, let people know that we're all out there. We do have a culture.
Yes, we
This
do.
is, you know, there is, and there's a lot out there, I think, that we need to cover, and a lot of folks that we need to talk to.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely. So, you know, our next blind culture series, we're going to dive into a couple more subjects a little more in detail with Brittany. I'm excited
Mhm.
about that because I love hearing her passion behind this, and I love hearing, you know, her experiences with you, and as
Mhm.
well as, you know, going through nursing school and going through this study and really diving deep into it. So, with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off and look forward to the next
Mhm.
Blind Culture series because it's just going to get better. We're just going to learn more
Mhm.
about different areas of what culture really is and how blind culture fits into that.
Now, I'll throw something out there, and this is a bit impromptu, and forgive me if I'm out of
Oh,
line here, but to any listeners or viewers out there, if you know of somebody that has had, you feel that has had an impact on blind culture, or even on you in your community, a leader, some sort of representative, or anybody, even, it doesn't matter, right? Even if it's, doesn't matter. And you feel like they have something to say, we do these webinars, and we also have a coach's corner. So there's a few different places that we can, you know, have a discussion with these types of people as we kind of bring this culture thing together, and you know, and actually give it shape. So, you know, feel free to drop us a comment, drop us an email, and let us know if, you know, if you'd like to get involved.
absolutely, because our next Coach's Corner is actually going to be questions and answers. So
Oh.
yes. So please submit your questions if you have any to
Mhm.
either our Facebook page or send it in as an email to info@irisvision.com. We'll be more than happy to cover those questions and answer any comments or concerns or, you know, recognizing comments or concerns that you may have. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today with this topic. It's such an important and I think a very passionate topic for us because
Mhm.
it's important to get that word out there in regards to
Absolutely.
our culture. And it's important to not only educate everybody else around us, but also our own community as a whole. So, okay, guys, thank you so much. Looking
Thank you,
forward
guys.
to the next one. All right, bye.